Welcome, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy July 4th holiday week for you if you're in the United States. I am your guest host, Dr. Monikah Ogando, and Kimberly and Zach are off and running doing family things, and in the meantime have asked me to step in and be the guest host for today. And we're talking about the healing of your money wounds, plural. If you are frequenter of Thursday's Spiritual Matters, I am the host, and you know that I talk a lot about chakras, and we'll talk today about money wounds at each chakra level. And I have a pop quiz for you at the end, because I'm going to give them to you in a certain order, and then I want you to tell me which one corresponds to each chakra. So we're gonna do a pop quiz. We're gonna be interactive today. So if you have heard the news, developmentally, human beings, from the time that they are first an idea in mom and dad's mind to the time that they are a little fetus in the womb to the time of delivery and then when they're born, that period is part of your consciousness. The period when you actually have a heart and a brain, et cetera, that is part of your subconscious mind. All the way to from the time that you're born to the time that you're 7, that whole time, your mind is just taking in, downloading information. It does not have cognitive memory, does not have critical thinking skills. It doesn't even have language until we're halfway through the point, like around 2 or 3 years old, right? And so a lot of the money wounds that we carry are not something that you're necessarily conscious about. You may have developed language for it later. You may have had a history of behavior, but they are usually implanted in a very subconscious level. And until you see the behavior, you're not aware that you're carrying these, we're going to call them tears in your consciousness of abundance, right? So let's go through them. The first one, I'm going to give you 7. The first one is denial, just outright denial. And that means not being in reality about what is actually going on in the real world, in the quote unquote physical world, and in your desires. So a lot of times what that looks like is that you will not tell the truth about where you are, or not tell the truth about where you want to be, because it feels ambitious, it feels greedy, it feels ungrateful, it feels gaudy, or whatever the case may be. And so you want to shy away from that because of all the conversations that we have about money. The other part is that sometimes we justify where we are as a way of manipulating more comfort with it. Some of us have accepted living beyond, below subsistence level, beyond comfort level, beyond sometimes even abuse, sometimes even neglect. But we dress it up so that we can, in some ways in our consciousness, be okay with it, or at least tolerate it, right? And so denial is the first one. And that sometimes tries over to our relationships, in that we justify other people's neglect or abuse, or the ways in which they minimize or infantilize or dismiss our needs, etc. We do it to ourselves first by being in denial. The second money wound, the second out of 7 that we're going to be talking about today, is when we do the martyr thing, when we give it away or we barter as a gesture of hopefully somebody will recognize. Hopefully somebody will recognize how good I am and they'll give me a break, or somebody will recognize and they'll give me something valuable in return. And we're going to call it an energy exchange, instead of actually being in the reality of we are exchanging money. Okay, not energy. And although energy, I mean, money is a type of energy itself, but it won't pay the phone bill, it won't pay the light bill, it won't pay the mortgage, right? So you need a different currency of energy in order to move in the financial world. So that's the second one, is bartering or giving it away for free. The third one is resistance to money. And that looks like jealousy. It looks like judging. It starts out as a lie and then ends up as a justification of your own superiority, or, like you're above things. You're so much more superior. I don't know why people would spend millions of dollars on a house or a car or clothes or blah, 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 when they're starving children in such and such name favorite place. And the resistance that we have to money is usually because we have associated being wealthy or rich with being morally bankrupt or taking ethical shortcuts, or in some way, some kind of undesirable quality that you don't want to associate yourself with. So you besmirch wealth and richness because you don't want to be associated with that. Right? So that's number 3 is resistance. Number 4 is waiting until it's your turn. Being patient, being long suffering. That's another money wound. Sometimes when we were little, we were not heard, we were not seen, we were not acknowledged, we were not celebrated for speaking up, for taking initiative, etc. And the more that you spoke up, the more that you said something, the more that you made yourself visible, the more mom or dad or older cousins or grandma or grandpa, whatever, would say, you have to wait your turn, right? Grown-ups are speaking right now. You have to wait your turn. And so we kind of carry that, thinking that if I just put in the work and I just pay my dues, and if I just do what I'm told, then eventually it'll be my turn, and eventually I'll be the one that's on stage, or I'll be the one reaping the benefits of the hard work and so forth. That's number 4. And what that does is that when you know, in your inner voice, in your intuition, when you know that you have the expertise, you have the experience, you have the permission, even sometimes you have the social equity, the social network, you still hesitate because you're waiting for somebody to tell you that it's okay to go ahead, and you abscond your own authority because somebody has to tell you that it's your turn. Number 5. Now, this is for those of you who are familiar with BDSM and the whole culture of being submissive versus being dominant. That dynamic of submissive and dominant energy plays out almost in every domain of human relationships. It's just that in the BDSM society, they actually have a name for it, and people usually pretend that they don't have that dynamic. But you have a sub-dom dynamic with your boss. You have a sub-dom dynamic with when you're a child, with your parent, in a relationship with your spouse. Maybe you're a sub-dom in certain areas of your relationship, and somebody else is the dom in others, etc. Right? And so when you sub to money, meaning when you submit to money, like you can only do what money will allow you to do, what you can afford to do, what the money in your bank, the way my bank account is set up, I can't do blah, 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 because your bank account is telling you what you can and cannot do, not you telling your bank account what you want it to do. That's what I mean about subbing. And so money is, like I said, an energy, and it is a result. So when we submit to a result, we are saying that we are not the cause of our own life or our own experience. And so money subs to you, it's not the other way around. It's like letting the dog or the child run the household. No, the grown-up, the one with the consciousness is the one that gets to decide, not the results, right? So that's number 5. Is that number 5? Let's see. Let's review them. So far, we have denial. Also, we have giving it away for free or bartering, right? Number 3 is when you have resistance to money, that judgment or jealousy. Number 4 is waiting your turn. Number 5 is subbing to money. So subbing to money, right? Number 6 is when you have a judgment around selling. Like you don't want to seem pushy, and you don't want to seem like you have an agenda, and you don't want to seem like selfish, or selling just gives you the ick, and you feel like a snake oil salesman, and da 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 da. So there's this level of judgment and resistance to selling itself. Part of that comes from, there's 2 places where that comes from. Part of it is that you are not confident enough in what you have to offer, or you may be confident enough in what you have to offer, but you don't trust yourself to deliver the communication in a confident way, or that the person doesn't believe you or trust you or respect you enough to take your word for whatever it is that you're selling. So all of it is, of course, centered around the idea of confidence. Yeah. So it's a confidence wound more so than anything else, because we are constantly selling. From the time that we're born, we're selling something, right? A baby is selling you on the idea, put food in my mouth, whether a bottle or a breast or whatever, and cuddle me and clean me up and do something, dang it. And even if they don't have language, they don't have like selling skills, but you know what they have? They have crying, they have whining, right? And they'll use that, right? So that's number 6. And then finally, number 7 is absconding responsibility. Like, just, it's not me, I didn't do it, leaving it to a higher power. You probably have heard people say this, like, if it's God's will, then such and such will happen. Well, who is God in your life? Aren't you the God of your life? Right? And so the absconding responsibility is when we are uncomfortable with our own power, when we are uncomfortable with the responsibility that comes with having power. You have to make decisions. Some of them are uncomfortable, some of them are hard. Sometimes you're going to piss people off. Sometimes you're going to disappoint people. Sometimes you're going to go for something, you're going to go for a goal and not meet it. And that sometimes makes you feel disappointed or sad or let down, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes even in yourself, you disappoint yourself sometimes. And so having to carry the responsibility of that energy is the thing that people are saying no to, right? And so you're always looking for somebody else to be the authority. You're always looking for somebody else to tell you what to do, et cetera. We follow a lot of advice columns and so forth, not because we don't have financial literacy. Some of us do, but, you know, particularly if you've been here any amount of time in Money Mondays. But somehow there's always like this self-doubt. And part of the self-doubt I challenge comes from the place of not owning your own authority and responsibility. So those are the 7 money wounds. Some of you have been part of a challenge that I created last month. It's now last month because we're officially in July. Happy July. It's called the Money Mindset Makeover Challenge. And if you go to monikahogando.com/challenge, you'll see it there. Now, the live one already happened. I'm going to tell you right now, the live one already happened, but you can still sign up and you will be able to get the access to all the core trainings and the recordings and the digital journal that comes with it, et cetera, et cetera. So you can go to monikahogando.com/challenge and sign up. It's less than $100. We kept it really, really low price for you. And so the idea with healing your money wound is I want to challenge you to, you write down those 7 ones that I just gave you. We'll run through them once again. And I want you to notice for yourself, where did you get that messaging in your 0 to 7? If it applies to you. If it applies. Not all of them will apply, and sometimes they'll apply in differing degrees. Where did you get the idea that you had to give something away or martyr yourself and get the short end of the stick, so to speak, so that people will trust you, so that people will take pity on you and give you something, right? As opposed to it being an equal, powerful exchange from the very beginning. Or maybe denial, maybe somebody in your family of origin, when you expressed your feelings, when you expressed your disappointment, when you expressed your opposition to something, they said it's not that bad, or you don't understand, or when you get bigger, you'll see, and somehow denying your reality, denying your experience of something, right? Because listen, a child can be disappointed and they can have protests and all of that, and you can still be with somebody's protest and disappointment. We're still going to go do this other thing, but I don't have to minimize your experience in order to go do this other thing. And so that's sometimes where the seeds of denial get planted, is that we sometimes deny the experience of somebody else in order to justify. the direction in which we're going. So what say you? Let me go into this gallery because I want to see your faces if you're on video. And I would love to hear from you. What are some of what's resonating for you in terms of the money wounds that we have talked about today? Which one is like, oh yeah, that's me? Mm-hmm. Who has something to share? Yeah. Gio, let's go.
Hey,
Hi.
hi. Um, so I visit this conversation often to
Mm-hmm.
try to look for um where else do I where else am I keeping from myself uh the flow of abundance that's already in the universe.
Yeah.
Um and the the thing that comes to mind for me is that somewhere for me, but I can't point to it. It's very unconscious, I think, or subconscious, if you will. It's for me, it's like somewhere for me, it's like really hard, you know? The the in some degree, the success I've been able to create for myself has all come from really hard work,
Right.
and consistency and day in and day out for years, and and I do get to see how for some people I even get to coach.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that aspect flows. Other things are not flowing, but that aspect sort of flows. In fact, they create this royal chaos because that's flowing so much
Uh-huh.
for themselves. And so I'm looking in this conversation, I'm looking, where am I still holding on to that it's really hard? And I've got to talk to 1,000 people to get one sale, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, where am I still holding on to that as some reward for my self-esteem, I guess? Like I'm a
Uh-huh.
hard-working individual. I don't know. I'm looking.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And that comes along with the resistance to money piece. It's almost like it's it isn't supposed to be easy. If it's easy, then it's suspicious. If it's easy, then you didn't
It's like I
deserve it.
don't, if it's easy, if it flows, then it's undeserving.
Right, you don't deserve it
Something like
more than
that.
uh-huh.
Something like that.
Yeah. Yep, yep, yep.
Because
Yeah.
it's not like I don't want it. Like I like a great vacation more than most people.
Right.
I certainly love it, but but somewhere in this place of hard work still there for me. And I really want to disabuse myself because at least in my industry or and I guess for everybody, it's a phone call away. It's a contract away. It's just one company away. It's just that.
Yeah.
Like in my field, it's a massive industry,
Mm-hmm.
$300 billion industry, and a year globally. And I don't have like a 0.1% of the industry. So I don't need to work on the industry.
Yes, right. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And so there's somewhere in there, somebody delivered the message of in order for you to get attention or love or validation or et cetera, you have to work really, really hard for it. And if you don't suffer or sweat or struggle for it, then you don't deserve it. And you're kind of getting away with something, if you didn't.
Man, I don't really want to die as the hardest working human being in the world.
Well, and I want you to know that it's much more common than people think. We do this in working out too. It's like if you don't break a sweat and if you're not dropping a lung, then you didn't really work out. You know, if you didn't cry in your vulnerability, then you're really vulnerable, right? So it's like there's some level of some level of like physical demonstration of suffering in some way in order to demonstrate that you really deserve the accolades. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's powerful and much more common than people sometimes care to admit. Who else has something?
I felt Sorrel was going to say something.
Mm. He looks like he's about to start.
It's not about it. Mine's just as good as anybody else, gang.
What is it?
Mine is, if you have money, you must be mean, conniving, and just one of the worst human beings on the planet.
Mhm.
And so if you do have it, in order to be good, in my view, you must give it away.
Ah, yes.
Mm.
Yes.
And
Including
and
you.
so I play this game of having money, giving it away so I can be good and not be like them.
Mhm.
And I play this game of hiding sometimes that I have a lot of money. And then I play the game of not associating with people who have a lot of money.
Mhm. Yeah, that's powerful
Yeah.
stuff.
So
We're
I
not
mean,
telling ourselves.
which chakra should I go wash?
So the judging thing, right? That judging thing is right there at the heart chakra. Because the conversation of money is evil, or money is like this. In order to have money, you have to be a mean person, or you have to be selfish, or you have to be morally bankrupt, or you have to be a jerk, et cetera, et cetera. All of those judgments, like I said before, if we're judging wealth, if we're judging abundance, if we're judging abundance of money specifically, it is typically because somebody had it and mistreated us. So in order for us to make peace with the fact that we don't have it, we have to make it the bad guy, right? And so, and then I have some questions, because 99% of the time projection is confession. Because if somebody tells me that they think money is me, it's like, well, are you confessing that if you had money, you would be an asshole? You would be a predator? If left to your own devices, you know what I mean? And so then the question becomes, do I trust myself with money? Can I be trusted to be responsible, to be kind, to be generous, to be right? And then that gets into the conversation about responsibility, spiritual responsibility. Oh, it's such a rabbit hole. That's a good one. Also, much more common than people care to admit. It's like this love-hate relationship, right? That it's like we want it. We want the doodads, we want the cars, the houses, the vacations, the freedom, et cetera, et cetera. But the people that have it typically in our especially in our collective consciousness are people that we look down upon. Right? The Kardashians have no talent. Being an athlete is, such a superficial physical game. You're not really contributing to society, blah, 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 blah. Who else has something?
It's a great conversation. Okay, so here's what came down for me this morning. I'm taking a shower and I'm taking a trip this weekend. I'm taking a shower and I'm thinking of this trip that I'm going on Wednesday. I'm meeting with my cousin for golf hangout down in Sarasota. I mean, for the most part, everybody is well off. I'm saying, damn, am I supposed to be going to this trip? I'm telling myself this, but yet this part of me say, you deserve it. It's what you do. I mean, and then I'm having this dichotomy of thinking, do you have enough money to be doing this trip, or are you doing it just to be with them, or is it a truly family hangout? And then that's where, coming into this conversation here, I'm looking, okay, I'm looking at the seven element you were talking about, and I'm looking at, okay, spiritual responsibility, irresponsibility. And I'm looking, okay, if I do this, it's the guilt, there's a little guilt that coming and in the spending.
Mm-hmm.
And where do I deserve to spend that money where I could take care of other things in the house. Like, okay, this morning I told my wife, okay, we got a couple of ceiling patches to do in the living room. We had a water leak, and it's like, okay, do we have enough money to do this, or do we, because we do have an account, uh, uh, somewhat of an account for home repair,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, okay, so that will take care of that. So, okay, yeah, we may need to add. So I'm going to this all this thing to really try to understand um where is the holdup that I shouldn't get what I want. Um
Because other things are more important.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that's where and I'm looking at, my business, what I do, and what I need to do, and I do know what I need to do to really explode, but yet, it's just like the spiritual, I think is the spiritual thing that
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that waiting for your turn. I mean, I'm looking at all this list, and
Yeah.
I'm saying check.
Yep.
I'm
Check,
I'm
check, check,
looking,
check. Right.
yeah, I'm looking at a denial check, you know, submitting to money, and like it feel like it tell you what to do, check,
Mm-hmm.
so that's what's present for me, and it's like, is a conversation that send you to look at, what you're doing. And so that's what got present to me today.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah. So a lot of times, this is one of the things that we do when we're submitting the money is that we let our money tell us what we can and cannot do, right? Instead of us telling our money what we want it to do for us.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, one last thing is nothing is more rewarding for me. And that's like, and I realize that in most vacation that I take is like I push myself hard, you know, almost like to the last hour before I go to vacation.
mhm,
Like if I have a project to get out to deliver, I would just work. And I think, and I could really relate to this from growing up, like the reward that my parents kind of, like you have to do hard work to get rewarded. And
mhm,
then it's almost like um, you push hard, and then once you do really realize that you push hard enough, that's when you get rewarded. So
yeah.
to me, getting on a plane tired to the I don't know where I am is the best feeling. And then, yeah, I'm serious,
Yeah,
man. Like
yeah.
like I'm going on a vacation, the last few hours, I bust my butt doing anything that need to get done. And then I get on the plane and now it's okay. That's it. This is done. And then I deserve it. I work hard to really get what I deserve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff. So as we're wrapping up here, I'm gonna give you some steps to take on. Number one step, behavior, is if you really want to dig deep into this, not only with your money habits in terms of financial literacy, but also just the mindset part of it. By all means, take the money mindset makeover challenge. monikahogando.com/challenge. It's still there. It's still less than $100. It'll take you through each one of these in depth. We spend at least half an hour in each one of these. So you'll get an in-depth, and it'll save you a lot in therapy. That's step number one. And then step number two is observe yourself. Observe how your energy goes up or down in terms of getting excited or getting muted when you are about to make certain money decisions. Just observe yourself this week. I'm not asking you to change any behavior, just observe it, note it down. And for yourself, just jot down, when this happened, I got this thought or feeling, and I made this up, right? So like an interpretation, a meaning that you've made out of it, et cetera, et cetera. Because when you start getting more and more awake to behavior, thought, feeling, interpretation, you will be much more disciplined in interrupting it. Because a lot of times those thoughts and feelings that we get are like, this doesn't even make any sense. This is just leftover from our childhood, and it's no longer fitting you, right? It might have made sense when you were 3. It might have made sense when you were 7, but you're not 3 or 7 anymore, and this no longer fits you. Just like the clothes you wore when you were 3 or 7 no longer fit you now, right? And so it gives you permission. When you become aware that way, it gives you permission to say, okay, I can put the childish things behind me, right? And so that's my invitation to you. Remember, of course, always laugh generously, live a little, give of yourself, your time, your energy, love generously, eat more plant-based, stress less, exercise. Remember that twerking is a kundalini raising spiritual practice. I don't care what anybody says, that's where I stand. That's one of the hills I'm willing to die on. And always audit your assumptions. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. When you audit your assumptions, you create different realities for yourself. Thank you, everybody. We love you. See you next time. What if you don't know how to twerk? You'll figure it out. You know how to twerk, David.